And the men go to the line here. We've got double rows back there. Everybody's getting off, though. No false starts, and nobody's down so far.
I had to have a chuckle about the athlete who just didn't even bother with the crouch, just sort of stood a little back and maybe a foot or two off of the starting line, knowing it's a long race. And
know your body.
Yeah.
Know what you need to do to start a race. Don't change anything. If that's how he starts a run every day, I would say stick with that.
Exactly.
So we've got some pacers out front here. This pace, or this race, is being paced for 13:55, which would set them up nicely for 27:50, that U.S. Champs qualifying time. And it looks like Casey Comer has jumped in to help get the pace started after his 1,500-meter win. And also Austin Miller is in here as well, I believe.
That's where we look at these early season meets as well. So someone like Comer who did, who did a shorter race, wanting to come back and use this longer race as a fitness builder. You know, we'll see a lot of pros who will do workouts after their races in the early seasons so that they don't lose volume on a race day. And I think this is a prime example of that.
And the gentlemen are looking for 67 seconds. That'll set them up nicely for 27:50. So first lap, Miller takes him through in 66.8. Casey Comer out front takes him through in 66.8. He's probably a late add to the field, just deciding after his 1,500, oh yeah, I want to jump back and get a little bit more work in, but maybe doesn't have a hip number here. But the men are all strung out on the rail, and we've seen, so it looks like two pacers up front, and then I think we've got Takato Suzuki, number 19, hip number 19. He's wearing the glasses.
He's the one with a great start.
That's right.
A great start.
He's got a great race ahead of him.
And you mentioned the Japanese athletes that were in this race, and athletes of other nationalities as well. And we've seen that as these racing series are put together thoughtfully, even sometimes, coordination between different meet organizers, so that you can, it's expensive, time-consuming, fatiguing to fly across the country or across the world. And so if you can create a good circuit in a region of the world, like along the West Coast, then you'll get athletes that will come, they'll do it.
And I think there are a fair amount of guys in this field who are right up near that 28-minute mark, and you can see them all strung out there on the beautiful drone shot.
I love this drone shot. It just gives you such a great sense of the race. Like, they are on the pace they want. Maybe one athlete is out of line, but otherwise they are just all stretched out, single file, just trying to lock into pace.
So we're getting the splits populated here on the screen. They were, like we said, 2:48 through the K, 3:22 through 1,200 meters, and they've just passed 1,400 meters. So they've gone, it was 67 low to start out, then 68, then a 67 mid for that third lap as they come up to the 1,600 meter mark here. We'll give you another split. But yeah, right under 4:30 for 1,600 meters. So still clicking off around 67s. And that's Casey Comer at the front, setting the pace.
No gaps forming yet. I mean, of course, it's 1 mile into a 6+ mile race, but but in the women's field, the gaps formed pretty quickly, and here, here they are maintaining contact.
Yeah, everybody's strung out here. You can see in the back there, Joey Barriatua is running his first 10K since he ran 31:30, I believe, in college as a Santa Clara man up at Lewis and Clark in Portland. But since then, he's dropped his time significantly on the track, and He's got a lot of great marks to his name. He's notably a steeplechaser. The guys call him Joey Wet Shoes, also known as Joey Bags. He's a member of the Tin Man Elite. But who knows what they'll call him after this 10,000 meters. We'll have to see how he does. But he is looking to get that 27:50 mark. So just going to sleep in the back of the pack, kind of Mo Farah-esque at the moment. Maybe he'll work his way up.
Sleeper, little sleeper. Here he comes later on.
And that last lap split was another 66.6 through 2K. So 5:35.87 at 2,000 meters. And that is right on pace for 27:50.
Exactly, 5:34 would be the, would be the 2K mark that you'd be looking for. So they're right there.
A lot of great names in this field. We've got Andrew Alexander in here too of Rhythm Athletics, and that is a group that is headed up by Matt Hughes, the Canadian steeplechaser. But Andrew Alexander, a Canadian athlete himself, he just ran 13:29 at Boston University, where everybody runs, where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
At BU.
Well, and Rennerwicki was last I checked around 5th place. His PR is from this meet in 2020, from the inaugural meet here of 28:15. So he'll be coming back looking to recreate that magic.
Yeah, Rennerwicki is in 5th place right now, the Under Armour athlete. You can see him. He's the tall guy there wearing the same singlet as the guy in front. So they got the yellow shoulders, easy to spot. But here we go, all strung out at the moment. Through 2,400, they were 6:42, so 67, another 67 low there. So right on pace here. They couldn't have asked for better pacing. And that is Peter Harold, I believe, in 2nd. So he's doing a pace job as well, following his 1,500.
Yeah, according to the results link, it's Austin Miller and Peter Harold as our pacers, and so we have 3 pacers, I believe, going on in this heat. Pretty awesome for the athletes.
Yeah, it's great that like a lot of guys or men and women come out here to support each other. There are all these different what used to be training groups, and they still are, but they're kind of forming into professional teams.
Right.
And there's still that camaraderie. It's not all business yet. There's that camaraderie amongst the running community where everybody's coming in to help each other and achieve marks. But that doesn't mean that they're not out there to beat each other still. You want to give everybody the best opportunity to race and be the best that they can be.
Absolutely. And I think for these athletes that are coming back to pace, as we said, sometimes this can be an excellent developmental tool for them, right? You go to the well in a 1,500, for example, and then you come back and you're running a hard, tempo effort. I call it a tempo effort only because he'll get to stop and the rest of them will have to go on and actually race the 10K. Remembering that, the athletes, those 10K athletes we spoke to said that the race really gets started somewhere between the 5 to 8K mark. So my guess is that we'll have the pacers through, 3K, 5K, and then, and as I say that.
Both of them step off. I was going to say we see that same look on Casey Comer's face as he was making the 15 there. But now we have Suzuki up to the front. He's taking the lead. We see on the screen here 8:56 through 3,200 meters, and that was a lap ago. So they're coming up to 3,600 meters now, which will be 9 laps down. And Suzuki is pushing the pace. And that's Yoshi behind him. Shunsuke Yoshi of Chuo University, an excellent Ekiden runner from what I've read, and a storied team as well. But this is Suzuki going after it now. Here we go.
He just threw it down. The pacer left, and he said, I'm going for it.
It's early, and we knew that the field was on 27:50 pace. So either they have slowed or Suzuki has revved it up a little bit. 3,600 meters, it was 10:04, and that was a 66.
It appears he's picked it up to create such a gap on the field while the rest of the field has all stayed together. So he'll be coming up. We can get that 4K split to you shortly, but he put in quite a surge.
Significant gap here for Suzuki, and we'll see what he can do with as he comes up to the 4,000 meter mark here. There's 6,000 to go.
I mean, he's a free spirit. His uniform, his spikes, his headband, his hair. He's my favorite guy for the start of this race. So, you know, my heart is enjoying watching him do what he's doing right now.
Well, he's done enough to give us the split screen here. So Suzuki really putting in an effort. And he's got his own screen as we look at the second pack being driven by John Renuicki.
You know what, actually it wasn't. He maintained that 66-second split, which is technically quicker than the 67s you'd have to hit for this 2750. But at the same time, the chase pack slowed down. They had hit a 67 and they went down to a 68, 68 high. So it was kind of a combination, I guess. Suzuki picking up, Yoshi easing back, and hence this gap of about 4 seconds is formed.
So Suzuki, it was an imaginary pickup here. He was just holding it all along, and when the Pacers stepped off, the pack slowed slightly. But we'll see if Renuicki can do some work to claw it back.
Yeah, Yoshi has now gone back several spots in that chase pack, with Renuicki taking the lead of the chase and Kipchumba behind him, followed by Ford, George, and then Yoshi, who had been the leader of the chase pack only a lap before.
And Renuicki, too, has a 28:15 best, I believe. But he's had a great winter, running 7:47 at BU and 3:57 in the mile, and he's also part of that Mission Run Baltimore team, the Under Armour.
I think a lot of these athletes were buoyed by these indoor performances, coming out with such confidence from big PBs against great competition. And so when I think that as well, the ability to sustain those quicker paces, I would think gives them more efficiency when they come out to run a 10K. You know, of course, it's many more laps than a 3K would be, but if their body mechanics can handle that quicker pace, then hopefully they can come and run a 10K with more efficient form. And I feel like across the board, I watch these longer distance athletes. It used to be kind of a joke maybe a decade ago where the distance athletes were just really skinny and a little bit frail, not great mechanics, and they just had huge lung capacity and huge engines. Now that's not the case. Some of these longer distance athletes could easily run a 1,500 meter race. But I think that is one of the many reasons why we're getting these record-breaking performances.
And there's a shift in that second pack too, as not everybody was happy with the pace being put out there by John Renuicki, but he's hanging in there. And now there's some shuffling going on, so we'll see who's at the front when it stops. But Suzuki's still out on his own, and he's got about 40 meters or so on the pack. 5 seconds. So we've seen Suzuki take off here and that second pack roll through, and we're through 5,200 meters now in 14:32. So that 5,000 was crossed in about roughly 14 minutes. And we're gonna bring in Colleen here to give us a little update trackside and see what she's seeing.
Hey guys, coming at you from the finish line here, hanging out right by the start finish. And I don't know if you guys talked about this, but this is kind of amazing. Suzuki's out here. To be honest, he doesn't look that great. He looks like he's working pretty hard, but these guys are not seeming to close on him. And we're over halfway. I thought they would kind of close in on him by now, but he's keeping him at bay. So honestly, I'm pretty impressed and just really interested to see how the second half of this race shakes out.
It's funny you mentioned that, Colleen, because when the break happened, Jeff and I were wondering, did Suzuki put in a big surge? Did the chase pack slow down? And it was a little bit of both that we found. He had maintained a 66 split, which was higher or quicker than kind of that target pace the Pacers were setting. But then the chase pack had, been maybe a second or so slower. And since then, there's really just been this revolving door of leads in the chase pack, but nobody that's really kind of gotten onto a solid pace. Instead of 77s, they've been hitting 78, 79, so or 68, 69. What are you seeing in that chase pack going on right now?
Yeah, well, I noticed when the Pacers dropped off, there was like some commotion. Not a super smooth exit of the track, I would say. If I was one of the athletes running behind Pacer number 2, I would not have been psyched. So there was, that moment of like jostling, and he was just kind of in the way. And I think that probably messed up some rhythm and kind of placement and allowed for some gapping to form. And I don't think that was just like responded to, quickly enough. And shockingly, I feel like changes can happen pretty quick here. And if you don't, respond right away, you can kind of find yourself like not in the spot you want. And I think some of these guys probably thought Suzuki, like, oh, he'll come back, or like, we'll get him. It just doesn't seem like that's happening. And as I'm watching, I'm eyeballing it. You guys can probably see the numbers. It looks like the gap is actually getting bigger. So I don't know. These guys are going to have to do something, work together, and try and chase him down.
And that's what seems to be happening right now. We're going to get back to the screen here, but thanks for the update, Colleen. We'll check in with you pretty soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
So Suzuki out front, and it looks like for a little bit the pace was evening out between the chase pack and Suzuki. They were both running 68s, but then the last lap leading into 6,000 meters, Suzuki 67.5, and then the chase pack slowed to 69s. Now it looks like Suzuki has run a 69, and we'll see what the chase pack has run 68. So we could see a little bit of closing if they can get their act together, and it looks like there's a couple guys out front who have made a decision and look to push.
Yeah, they've got about a 9-second separation between Suzuki and the chase, and now it does look like there is some intention within the chase to try to close that gap, when there really was not any commitment from anyone, any full commitment from anyone prior till this lap or so. And
Suzuki reached 6,000 meters in 16:48 a couple laps ago, and 27:50 pace is 16:42, so he's not far off. The pack itself reached it in 16:57, so they've got their work cut out for them. And it looks like another 68 leading up to 6,800 here for Suzuki. And then the men behind him, that's Ryan Ford of Zap Fitness, who's driving the train, and he ran 67.9. So Thomas George from Roots Running behind Ryan Ford, clawing up to 67.8. And they're at 19:14, 6,800 meters, and Suzuki's at 19:05. So we'll see what the pack can do to try and draw back Suzuki here. Like you said, it looks like his form isn't looking fantastic at the moment, but he's still grinding away. And who knows, like some of these 10,000 meter runners too can really go to the well and stay there for a long time. Like we were talking about Alicia Monson and those schooled by Dathan Ritzenheim too in the OAC. The wall is a path.
It's the track. And that is almost part of that, getting to that uncomfortable place, especially for the Dathan's athletes. When I hear them talk, it's almost like that is what they strive for, the ability to get to that place of discomfort and linger in it, luxuriate in it, if you will.
Yeah, I'm remembering I often hear, well, Scott Fauble says, what do you do? Or people ask him, what do you do about the pain? He says, I let it all in. You got to just take it. I can take more. And I think I'm not a 10,000 meter runner, but that has to be your mindset as you get into these later stages. And it looks like Suzuki is really letting it in and taking it right now, because that pack, the gap is not shrinking as much as they'd like it to, although he did run another 69 for his 18th lap there, up to 7,200 meters. And Ryan Ford driving the train was a 68. So inch by inch, they're bringing him back slightly as Suzuki is slowing from his 66, 67 pace to 69s through these laps here.
And the chase is, hitting these 68s. So, he had about a 9-second lead on them with about 11 laps to go, maybe a little less. But each lap, the chase is running about a second quicker. So, sometime in the near future, we'll give you the chase pack split. So, they are 7 seconds back from Suzuki. So, closing that gap, but can only do so much, at least until that final kick time happens in the last lap or two.
And it is Ryan Ford, Thomas George, and Andrew Alexander in that second pack, that trio there that you can see on your right, and they crossed 7,600 meters in 21:31, running 68s. So they have got a nice little group there to, if they can work together to draw back Suzuki, I'm sure that's what they're thinking at the moment, but we'll see if it can happen. And Suzuki coming up here, looking like he's hurting, but still holding on. And he's been clicking off 69, so we'll see what this one is. This is 8K here, so lap 20. He's got 5 to go.
Yeah, I look at the mechanics and the facial expressions of Suzuki compared to the men in the chase pack, and if I had to guess, I think Suzuki will get caught. But, clearly he's just a grinder.
Well, hold on. Let's look at the splits here. So 22:32 for Suzuki, a 68.7, and then a 69 for Ryan Ford driving that train. So
Yay.
Suzuki continues to extend his lead here, digging into the well. Ryan Ford, Thomas George, and Andrew Alexander in that second chase pack there, doing what they can to claw up to Suzuki, but not making it happen yet. There's 5 laps remaining here, or inside of that. They're coming up with a mile to go right now. And Suzuki comes onto the home stretch here. Looking like he's staring into the black pit of exhaustion at this moment, but 1,600 meters to go. Suzuki, his best time is 28:13.
Wow.
We'll see what he can do against that. If he can hold on here, he's really giving himself all he can handle right now.
Every time he slows down, it's almost like he forces himself to surge again, and then he gets a quicker split, which is why we're getting this yo-yo between, or teeter-totter between the pace that he'll hit one lap and then the chase pack, and, keeps going back and forth who runs quicker. But they maintain practically the same distance, and the number of laps left is getting slimmer and slimmer.
And yes, 68.2 for him, and the pack, the 3 men behind him rolling at 69.2, so he's got a second faster than them as we see the entire split populate here. Jackson Messler sitting there in 6th as well from the Oregon Track Club. This is his debut 10,000 meters, coming from a storied University of Oregon family there. He's better known as a steeplechaser. Made the Olympic trials final.
We have some change up in the chase pack.
Suzuki crosses the line.
I believe it was Thomas George, who took the lead.
And that was lap 22 for Suzuki, 24:50. That was a 69.4, so he slowed a second there. And then you said Thomas George took the lead. He ran 68.2 for that lap. So now they're getting a second on Suzuki, and the chase is on.
It's great with a 10K, you put in all this work early as kind of everybody's, calm, just watching this chess game play out. And then you get to the final, as I said, the final 2K, and then the battle really starts.
It'll be interesting to see what Suzuki has left when they can get to him, because Thomas George is now trying to get some daylight. There aren't too many laps remaining in this race, and if anybody's going to do something, they're going to have to make a decision and do it and not count on anybody else. So George is making that decision, but the other guys are going with him, and we'll see what results of that when we get to the line here as Suzuki comes up to 2 laps to go. He's at 9,200 meters. And that is a 68.1. So clawing back some time here and looking over his shoulder a little bit.
Yeah, I started about a lap ago looking over his shoulder. I hadn't seen him do that until maybe a lap ago. So, the pain we've been seeing on his face is maybe starting to make him a bit nervous. Maybe he can sense that those other runners are coming up towards him. But now they're pretty much, 68 for him, 68 for the chase.
And Suzuki's got 600 meters to go here. So we have to see if they're going to catch him. They're going to have to do it. They're going to have to do it with 7 seconds in this last 600 meters. Now less than that. Now 500 meters to go. Suzuki, look at this man. Look at him grit. This is a beautiful display here. This is a beautiful display of agony.
My guy, he caught my eye from the gun, gave himself a foot of distance in row 2 behind everybody else, and here he is just leading the race.
Running a 66-second lap for that penultimate lap. We're inside the bell lap right now, 66.3 for Suzuki, and Thomas George 67.4. Or Ryan Ford, has retaken the second place position, trying to chase down Suzuki. This is all Suzuki, and he gave us cause for concern in the middle stages of this race, but now with less than 200 meters to go, he's put in the work. He's done this all by himself since the pacer stepped off at 2 miles, and that's what he had to do. But now 150 meters to go. Oh, giving an arm up to the crowd right there. Look at this. This is what sports is all about, ladies and gentlemen. The crowd's going nuts for him. He's done the work, and he's coming in 28.07.
Stops the watch, running wide.
Oh, and look at this. Look at that rip and close there from Ryan Ford. Suzuki ran 62 seconds for that final lap. Ryan Ford, 60 seconds for that 28.14 as we see the guys roll in here.
That was fun.
So we've got Thomas George coming in second there. Ryan Ford third. Andrew Alexander 28.17. Aiden Reed 28.27.